The late afternoon sun bled gold over the white marble of Athens, casting long, graceful shadows that stretched like fingers through the narrow alleys. In a quiet courtyard, away from the chatter of philosophers and the cries of merchants, a young sculptor named Lysander leaned over a slab of Parian marble, his chisel kissing stone with the patience of a lover. Every strike was deliberate. Every breath matched the rhythm of the hammer. Sweat ran down his temples, glistening like liquid sunlight. He wasn't just sculpting, he was coaxing a soul from within the stone. For 3 months, he had labored here in silence, ignoring the city's laughter, its markets, its festivals. His friends thought him obsessed. Perhaps he was. The statue was nearly complete. A woman, tall and elegant, stood half-revealed beneath the marble's pale surface. Her lips curved in a secret smile, and her head tilted gently, as though listening to a sound only she could hear. Her arms were outstretched, as if to hold someone or to be held. But it was her eyes that consumed him. Lysander had carved countless faces before, proud generals, beloved wives, noble gods. But this was different. This statue bore a softness and a mystery he couldn't explain. Her gaze felt alive even though it was still stone. When he chiseled her eyelids and lashes, his hands trembled. "She's almost breathing," he whispered to the marble. A breeze passed through the courtyard then, warm and honey-scented, stirring the curls of his dark hair. The olive branches above him rustled softly, like a sigh. As night fell, the statue was complete. He brushed marble dust from her cheeks with tender fingers. "I'll call you Thaleia," he murmured. "For the blooming one." He did not sleep that night. Instead, he sat before her with an oil lamp casting a trembling glow across her flawless features. She seemed to shimmer in the flickering light, alive in the way moonlight makes water seem to move. His chest ached with a strange, wordless feeling. Not mere pride. Something deeper. Days passed. Lysander's obsession only grew. He brought her garlands of fresh myrtle, wreathing her hair. He polished her skin with olive oil until the marble gleamed like silk. When he spoke to her, the courtyard felt less empty. "She's too perfect," one of his apprentices whispered to another. "No woman is like that." "Perhaps she's not a woman at all," came the uneasy reply. Word spread quietly through Athens of the mad sculptor who had fallen in love with his statue. But the gods are always listening. And among them, none listens more closely to whispers of love than Aphrodite. One warm night, as the cicadas sang their endless song, Lysander knelt before Thaleia. "If I could give you breath," he murmured, "I'd spend the rest of my days by your side. No mortal woman could ever compare." The air grew heavy then. A soft glow, pale pink and gold, wove its way into the courtyard like smoke. Lysander's breath caught as the scent of roses filled the air. The lamp's flame burned brighter. The leaves stilled. A voice like velvet brushed against his ear. "What a dangerous promise, mortal." Lysander turned and nearly fell to his knees. A woman stood behind him. Not just any woman. She was radiant, her golden hair crowned with roses, her gown flowing like sunlight across water. Her beauty was unbearable, a truth so perfect it made the world itself feel dim. "Aphrodite," Lysander breathed. The goddess of love smiled, her lips curved like a blade wrapped in silk. "Your devotion has reached Olympus, sculptor. Such longing, such fire. You have poured your heart into this creation, and the gods have taken notice." He dropped to his knees, trembling. "My goddess, forgive me. I meant no blasphemy." "Blasphemy?" She laughed softly, a sound like 1,000 chimes. "No. Love is never blasphemy when it is true. You have done what few mortals dare. You loved something before it lived. That is power." She stepped toward Thaleia and ran a hand along the statue's cheek. "Shall I grant her what your heart desires?" Lysander's breath caught. "You can." "I can," Aphrodite said. Her eyes gleamed like the Aegean at dawn. "But love is never without its price." "I'll pay it," he whispered, too quickly. The goddess tilted her head. How reckless. How delicious. She touched the statue's marble lips with a single finger. A pulse of golden light rippled across the stone like sunlight through water. Thaleia's skin softened. Her color bloomed. The marble hair spilled like silk down her back. Her eyes, those impossibly carved eyes, fluttered open. Lysander stumbled backward, breath stolen from him. She inhaled like one who has never tasted air. Her gaze found him first, as though he were the anchor that tethered her to this world. Lysander, she whispered, not because she knew the name, but because she had felt it every day he'd spoken to her. Tears burned his eyes. He reached out, and she stepped into his arms, warm, alive, and trembling. Aphrodite smiled faintly. Then let it begin. And with that, the goddess vanished in a storm of roses, leaving the scent of love behind and the weight of something Lysander could not yet name. For weeks, their world was nothing short of paradise. Thalia learned to walk in the marble courtyard where she'd been born. She traced every leaf and petal with wonder, laughing softly at how the breeze teased her hair. She tasted figs and honey with the curiosity of a child and the grace of a queen. And Lysander loved her. Gods, how he loved her. He built her a home beneath the olive trees, wrapped her in linen, braided her hair with garlands. They spent their nights speaking of the stars she'd never seen and the sea she longed to touch. But love that defies the natural order does not go unnoticed. Strange things began to happen. Statues in the agora cracked in the night. Olive trees wept sap like blood. A dove fell dead from the sky as they walked through the city. People whispered. Priests warned. The oracle of Delphi spoke of a love stolen from Olympus. And sometimes, in the still hours before dawn, Thalia would wake with a distant, frightened look. "Do you hear it?" she'd whisper. Lysander would hold her close. "There's nothing there." But there was. The gods had given life. And now, they wanted something back. One morning, Lysander awoke to find Thalia sitting on the steps of their courtyard, her bare feet soaked in dew. She stared blankly at the horizon, where the first streaks of pink dawn bled into the sky. He knelt beside her, touching her hand. Her skin was cold, not like marble, but like a body that belonged to some place between worlds. "They're calling," she whispered, voice quivering like a reed in the wind. "Who?" Her eyes, once filled with warmth and wonder, now seemed endless, like the carved marble he'd once known. "The gods. I feel them pulling me back." Lysander's chest tightened. "No. No, I won't let them." She turned to him then, and tears shimmered in her eyes. "It's not your choice. Or mine." That night, the olive branches shuddered even without wind. The flame in their lamp dimmed though no draught stirred. A figure emerged from the shadows at the edge of the courtyard, a tall man draped in a chiton as black as obsidian, his eyes like polished onyx. The scent of smoke and ambrosia followed him. "Hermes," Lysander breathed. The god inclined his head slightly. "Mortal. You have what does not belong to your kind." Lysander moved in front of Thalia instinctively, his hands clenched into fists. "She's mine. She lives. You can't take her." Hermes's smile was small, tired. "No mortal can keep what was shaped by divine breath. You begged Aphrodite for life and she gave it, but the balance must be kept. Such gifts always require payment." "I'll pay anything," Lysander said, his voice cracking. "Take gold, silver, my hands, my sight. Anything but her." Hermes's gaze flicked to Thalia, who was standing now, trembling like a flame in a draught. "The price," he said softly, "is not yours alone to pay." Thalia stepped forward before Lysander could stop her. "If it's me they want, then I'll." "No." He grabbed her arm, desperate. "No, Thalia. You don't understand. You're real. You're alive. I can't lose you." She turned to him then with a quiet sorrow that broke him more than any blade could. "Lysander, before you carved me, I was nothing. I didn't breathe. I didn't feel. Every moment with you has been a gift. But I was never meant to stay." Hermes lifted his hand, and a thin shimmer of light formed around her like a halo, soft at first, then brightening until it burned his eyes. "Wait," Lysander shouted. "Please, wait." The god paused. Lysander fell to his knees, his forehead pressed against the earth. "Give me a chance. A trial. A way to keep her here. Anything. I beg you." Hermes studied him in silence. A mortal groveling was nothing new to the gods. But there was something in Lysander's voice, a raw, unfiltered devotion, that even a god of messengers could not easily dismiss. Finally, Hermes said, Aphrodite gave her life. Only she may decide if she keeps it. Go to her temple on the cliffs of Hymettus. Plead your case. But beware, sculptor, love is a language the gods speak in riddles and debts. What she grants she can take back with a whisper. And in the blink of an eye, Hermes was gone. Thaleia collapsed into his arms, her breath shallow, her pulse fluttering like a trapped bird. Her skin flickered faintly, sometimes warm flesh, sometimes cool stone. Lysander held her tightly. I'll save you, he swore into her hair. Even if Olympus itself stands in my way. They set out before dawn. The temple of Aphrodite loomed on the cliffs like a pale crown above the sea. The wind screamed up from the rocks, but the goddess's shrine was serene, a marble palace glowing pink in the morning light. Pilgrims knelt on the temple steps, offering roses and coins. But as Lysander climbed, the crowd fell silent, parting as though they could sense something larger than themselves moving through him. At the top, a priestess draped in flowing white robes barred his way. Mortal, she intoned, only the worthy may enter the sanctuary of the goddess. He met her gaze, unflinching. I have carved the shape of love from stone. I will not be turned away. The priestess's lips parted to speak, but before she could, the temple doors opened on their own. A warm breeze smelling of roses swept over them. She's expecting you, the priestess whispered. Inside, the temple glimmered with gold and ivory. Statues of lovers entwined lined the walls. Incense burned, curling like pale fingers into the air. And at the heart of it all, reclining on a throne of carved shells and petals, was Aphrodite. Her beauty was even more terrible now, too bright, too perfect, like looking directly into the sun. Lysander fell to his knees at once. Little sculptor, she said, voice like honey over steel. You have come to beg. I've come to fight for her, he whispered. Aphrodite's laugh filled the temple like a song. So dramatic. How mortals love to bleed for their little flames. And what makes you think she belongs to you? She belongs to no one, he said, lifting his gaze to meet hers. But she belongs to this world now. She breathes. She laughs. She loves. Isn't that what you stand for? The goddess tilted her head. And if I told you that love is not meant to be stolen from the heavens? That some flames burn too brightly for mortal hands? Then I'd rather burn with her, Lysander said, voice steady. Something shifted in her expression, a flicker, faint but real. Very well, she purred. Let us see how far that love reaches. The price is not easily won, sculptor. But I will give you a chance. The temple darkened as her words wrapped around him like silk and iron. If you wish to keep the life you stole, then you must prove it is stronger than death itself. The torches within the temple dimmed until only the throne of Aphrodite glowed, bathing the chamber in soft, rose-gold light. The walls seemed to breathe. Incense thickened, twisting into delicate shapes, hearts, lips, doves, and then dispersing like mist. The goddess leaned forward, resting her chin on one perfect hand. Love, little sculptor, is a dangerous bargain. You want to keep what was never yours. So, we'll play a game. Lysander swallowed hard. What kind of game? Her smile widened, slow and sharp. 3 trials. One for the heart, one for the hands, one for the soul. Pass them, and she remains in your arms, a woman of flesh. Fail. Thaleia's voice trembled behind him. What happens if he fails? Aphrodite's gaze shifted to her, warm and cruel all at once. Then the marble remembers what it was. And so do you. The statue-born woman stepped closer, her hand finding Lysander's. Her fingers were trembling. I don't want to go back, she whispered. He squeezed her hand tightly. You won't. Aphrodite rose, her gown flowing like liquid gold down the steps of her dais. First trial. The trial of the heart. She raised a finger, and the temple walls melted away, the air shimmering like heat on stone. In a blink, Lysander stood in a vast field of lilies under a copper-red sky. The wind was still. Thaleia was gone. The goddess's voice curled through the air like smoke. To keep her heart, sculptor, you must face your own. From the far end of the field, a figure appeared. At first it was only a silhouette against the blood-warm horizon. Then it grew clearer. It was Thalia, or rather, a version of her. But this Thalia was draped in finery, her skin aglow with divine light. She looked upon him with a gaze colder than the statue had ever known. "I am what she could become," the apparition said, her voice smooth as polished marble. "A goddess's creation belongs with the divine. She does not love a mortal who sweats in the dust. She deserves more than you." Lysander's breath caught. "You're not her." "I am her heart's choice," the apparition countered. "What if she grows tired of your mortal hands? What if the warmth fades? What if eternity tempts her?" Lysander clenched his fists. The words struck deeper than any blade. He had thought of these things late at night, when she fell asleep in his arms. She was made of beauty that would never fade. He was just a man who would wrinkle, weaken, die. The apparition stepped closer, every movement deliberate and perfect. She could walk Olympus, bathe in starlight, be worshipped. He whispered, almost to himself, "And I could never give her that." The apparition smiled, soft and pitying. "Then let her go." But another voice rose, gentle, trembling, from behind him. He turned. Thalia was there, barefoot in her simple linen dress, her hair unbound, eyes wide and alive. Not marble. Not goddess. Just her. She took his hand. "I never asked for Olympus." Lysander looked between the two, the divine vision and the woman who had laughed at olive trees and danced in the rain. His chest burned with something fierce and clear. "I can't give her eternity," he said, facing the apparition. "But I can give her every heartbeat I have. Every breath. Every moment." The apparition's smile faltered. He stepped closer, voice steady now. "She was born from stone, but she's no longer stone. She's human. And so am I. If she chooses me, I don't need Olympus." Thalia pressed her forehead against his. "I choose you," she whispered. The apparition cracked, fine fractures running through her perfect surface like lightning on glass. Then she shattered soundlessly, turning into drifting petals that vanished into the air. The field dissolved. The temple returned. Aphrodite watched them with narrowed eyes, amusement dancing at the corners of her mouth. "Well done, little sculptor," she purred. "The heart is the most fragile stone, yet you did not let it break. Perhaps this isn't entirely foolish after all." Lysander was still breathless, his hand locked with Thalia's. "Second trial," Aphrodite said, her voice deepening like distant thunder. "The trial of the hands. Let us see if what created her can hold on to her." The world fell away again. He found himself back in his workshop, the one where Thalia had first been carved. But it was not as it had been. The air was cold and sharp. The floor was littered with cracked stone and broken chisels. In the center stood a block of marble, rough and untouched. And beside it, Thalia. Only this time, she was still marble. Unmoving. Expressionless. Her eyes lifeless once more. A chisel lay on the ground. Aphrodite's disembodied voice rang out, "You carved her once. Carve her again. But this time, carve not what you desire, but what she truly is." Lysander's stomach knotted. He stepped toward the stone. His hands shook. The last time, he had carved her face from the hunger of his own heart. Every curve, every lash had been born from his vision of perfection. But now he had to carve her. Not his fantasy. Not an idol. A woman. He lifted the chisel. The first strike rang through the cold air like a bell. Slowly, piece by piece, he let go of the perfection he once clung to. He carved the small quirks, the slight crookedness of her smile when she teased him, the softness in her brows when she listened, the faint lines where laughter lived. He shaped imperfection. He shaped truth. And as he worked, the statue bled light. Warm. Alive. The stone hands softened first, fingers curling ever so slightly. Then her lips parted, as though breathing in for the first time again. When he struck the final blow, the marble burst into a flurry of dust and light, and Thalia stepped forward alive, breathing, her skin warm beneath his touch. She whispered, "You saw me." Lysander's throat tightened. "I always did." I just needed to stop chasing a goddess and start seeing you. The temple rushed back in a whirl of rose petals and golden light. Aphrodite sat on her throne, watching them with an expression that was no longer amusement alone. There was something older, quieter, in her gaze. You've surprised me, she said softly. Love rarely survives when the illusion is stripped away. Lysander wrapped an arm around Thaleia, and she leaned into him, warm and trembling. One last trial, Aphrodite said, rising slowly from her throne. The ground seemed to hum beneath their feet. The trial of the soul. You've proven your love for her heart and her form. Now prove it to the fates themselves. The temple floor cracked open beneath them like a dark mouth. Wind howled up from the abyss, carrying the scent of iron and earth. Aphrodite's eyes gleamed. To keep her life, mortal, you must be willing to give your own. And then they fell. The world roared around them as they plunged into the abyss. No temple. No light. No sound but the rush of wind and Thaleia's hand clutching his. For a heartbeat, it felt endless, like falling through the hollow chest of the world itself. Then, with a bone-deep shudder, they landed on dark stone. The air here was cold. Not the soft chill of Athens nights, but the kind that gnaws at the soul. Veins of pale blue light crawled through the cavern walls like the roots of some ancient tree. A river, black as obsidian, flowed silently nearby. And on the far bank stood 3 figures, shrouded in shadows. The Fates. Clotho, Lachesis, Atropos. The weavers of destiny. Their forms shimmered between old and young, their eyes reflecting threads of countless lives. Lachesis spoke first, her voice like silk stretched thin. A mortal and a stolen soul. How curious. Clotho's pale fingers toyed with a spool of golden thread. He wishes to keep what does not belong to his kind. Atropos's shears gleamed as she tilted her head. Then let us see what he'll pay. Lysander stepped forward, though his knees trembled. I'll give anything for her. The Fates didn't hesitate. The golden thread snapped with a clean, merciless sound. His knees buckled, and in Thaleia's arms, his breath slipped away like a whisper. For 5 months she mourned, flowers at his grave, prayers to gods who no longer answered. But the world moved on, and so did she. His young apprentice, the one who had silently carried marble and tools for years, began visiting. First with offerings, then with warmth. Eventually, with love. One spring morning, they laughed beneath the olive tree where Lysander had once sculpted. And far beyond the mortal realm, watching from the afterlife, Lysander let out a dry, incredulous laugh. Ain't no way.